So, about a year ago, we put out our predictions for Breakout Star. Who wants to go first? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, we could each take our own, I guess. So I could start if you want. Last year when we did this, I had kind of done stars for like a lot of different weight classes. I guess we were not on the same page. These guys came with a more condensed list than myself, which is shocking. What else is new? I always have too many people on my list. And I'll probably have too many honorable mentions when we do the award show in a few minutes. But I did pretty well, if we're being honest. I kind of went by weight class. So, yeah, we can look back here. Let's hold ourselves accountable. Heavyweight, I went Tom Aspinall, which I think I was on a great pace for.
You were.
I still believe he would have beat Curtis Blades, but I got fucked by an injury. Light heavyweight, I kind of went a little different angle in terms of breakout. I just meant that he would break out and be the champ, and he was. I said Yuri Prohaska, so I nailed that one. Middleweight, I said Alex Pereira. Obviously, he is the champ. I said Andre Muniz. He didn't do much this year. What did Andre Muniz fight this year? Like one time?
I think once,
He barely fought. Now I got to look. Andre Muniz fought one time. Yeah, he beat Uriah Hall. So a quiet year for Muniz, but he did win. So, hey, if he fought a little more, maybe I could.
You said Joel Alvarez.
Well, I didn't get to that division yet. I'm on
my bad.
My bad. Welterweight, I said Ian Gary. I thought maybe we would have taken some more steps. He hasn't lost either, but been a little bit of a slower going. Lightweight, I said Joel Alvarez, who did get turned back. I still believe Joel Alvarez is a really interesting dude, but he got turned back pretty badly in his rise by Arman Sarukian. He fights again soon, so we'll see. And I said Patty, who, he's doing his thing. Featherweight,
controversially so.
Yeah.
Lately.
Featherweight I skipped. I didn't see anyone I wanted to really call out there as a breakout. Bantamweight, I said Rafion Stotts. My man is the Bellator interim champion right now. Sergio is still the champion. And I said Adrian Yanez, who, again, another one of these guys. He did get a win, but it was kind of a quiet year. He didn't quite fight that often, so we'll see now, obviously, as we just mentioned a moment ago, what happens. Flyweight, same deal. I said Manel Kopp. He only fought once, but it was a win and a big win, so he keeps going. The one that I really got wrong was Kayla Harrison for women's featherweight.
We all did. We all did with that one.
I thought she would sign with the UFC, and I thought she could beat Amanda, and that's why I went with that kind of as a bold pick. Obviously, she didn't come to the UFC, and not only that, she didn't even win in the PFL. So that was the one I got wrong for sure. I skipped women's bantamweight. I didn't see anyone there, and I didn't do women's strawweight either, but at women's flyweight, I said Tatiana Suarez, who was supposed to come back early this year. She never did. Now she's supposed to come back early 2023, so I'll probably pick her again for next week when we do these. I mentioned Manon Fior, who obviously is maybe getting a title shot here, and Erin Blanchfield, who's looking pretty damn good. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with my predictions. I think I did pretty solid, other than the Kayla choice there.
Yeah, man. Let's see. I said I thought we were picking basically like the breakout star of the year.
Yeah.
Last year. I said Fiziev, Rafael Fiziev, and like I honorably mentioned Hamzat. I think I was more right about Hamzat. Obviously, I think we all knew, where his star was going, and that was up to the stratosphere, and it has. The guy's become a bigger and bigger star every time his face is on a screen. Fiziev, maybe not so much. I mean, he's looked great.
He's another one of these guys that he only fought once. He won.
Yeah, and then he called out a tennis player after he won. It's the strangest call out ever.
Yeah.
Who did he call out? What's the guy's name? Rafael what? Nadal.
It's very
he was like, let's see who's the best Rafael. It's so strange.
It's weird to look back at so many of these guys and be like, why did they only fight one time? And you have to try to remember, were they hurt? Did something happen? Fighting one time in a year is so disappointing.
It is.
Especially for your bank account. How the fuck are you living fighting one time a year?
Yeah.
Seems crazy to me. But we find out later on a lot of these guys end up having 9 to 5 jobs half the time anyway. So, so for my picks, I also went with guys who I thought were going to break out. I didn't do it by weight class, but the one that I picked was Adrian Yanez, and then I had Paddy Pimblett and Hamzat as well. Adrian Yanez was definitely my number one, but like Mark said, he only fought once. Fought well, knocked the kid out. Definitely with all the chirping that was going on in that fight, it was definitely one with some cherries on top for sure. But can't really do too much with one fight, one in the year. So your boy didn't do too well.
And of course, this all raises the question of like, what does it mean to break out as a star? It's not kind of, it's very subjective.
Agreed.
Like you could argue that Paddy kind of came in a star.
Yep.
All right.
Omar, you had one other one that you honestly kind of nailed. You said Sean O'Malley, and you said that you knew he was already a star, but it would be in a way that legitimizes how good he is, and that's literally what he did.
It's true.
I gotta say, man, I've really loved Sean O'Malley in this last year, and I know a lot of people gave him shit, for the last two performances, and I hate that they do, because if this was a kid that didn't talk as much, that maybe didn't rub people a certain way, all of the things that kind of come with the Sean O'Malley package that people may not like, if they just watch the fight, you can't tell me that wasn't a competitive fight with Jan. And you can't tell me that Jan 100% won that fight. There's no other way that could have gone, and there's that. That's bullshit. You don't like Sean O'Malley, so you thought Jan won a competitive fight. I get that. That's fine. But don't gaslight everybody, bro. Sean O'Malley
makes O'Malley a bum because you didn't like the decision. So now O'Malley's a bum. He's not good.
Correct. He fought a competitive fight against Peter Yan, a fucking former world champion, but he's a bum. Sure. People are just wild to me, man. But, regardless of how you feel about Sean O'Malley personally, the kid has put in work. And he is in the spot I think he deserves to be in.
Yep.
Okay. And now let's quickly look back on our predictions for who would be the champion of each weight class by the end of the year.
How bad is this list, though?
Okay. Starting with women's strawweight, we all at the beginning of the year it was Rose, and we all said Rose would be the champ.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
And then she went on to have one of the worst fights in MMA history.
I mean, to her credit, like, she barely lost it. She lost it just by doing nothing. So
I know.
Like someone
That was
blew her away
upsetting.
that we missed calling.
Yeah. I wish
It didn't feel like that fight just didn't feel like a championship fight.
A draw. It didn't. I wish it could have just been a draw.
Yeah.
Meh.
Okay, women's flyweight. Valentina was the champion at the time, and we all said by the end of the year it would still be Valentina, and we were all right. And also, I noted that I'm putting this down now because Mark said on last year's show when I rewatched it, Mark said it will be Valentina, and mark it down for the year after it will be Valentina. You're probably right. Okay, women's bantamweight. At the beginning of the year, it was Pena. Mark and myself both said that Nunes would get it back. And Omar said it would be Holly Holm.
Yeah, I don't know why. But that might have been one of those. Yeah, that might have just been one of those I just want to be different picks.
Your take was that you thought Pena could beat Nunes again, and that Holm would then get a shot, and that she matched up really well with Pena. And you said even if that wasn't the case, you thought Pena exposed some ways for Holm to beat Nunes if that had to be the fight as well. But yeah, you definitely voiced that it was your bold pick.
Okay.
Let's give credit to Mark for rewatching last year's episode because I fucking don't remember that at all.
I watched just a bit of it to note one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, probably.
That one. Let's go, baby.
Probably the funniest one was women's featherweight. Okay, it was all over the map, man. Mark said Kayla, if Kayla signs with the UFC, he thought Kayla would beat Nunes or Pena or whoever. I I said that that division was going to get disbanded, and Omar's response was "LOL." Okay.
Yep.
In all fairness, I think mine was the closest to being right. Just
Nunez
saying.
ever even fight? No, right?
LOL.
At featherweight?
No.
It never happened.
Nope. LOL.
Yeah, literally nothing.
There
happened.
were some women's featherweight bouts, but not a title fight.
Right.
What was the one Lita Landsberg fight?
I think, yeah. Okay, moving over now to the men's side, starting down in flyweight. The champ was Moreno, I believe. And Mark and Omar both said it would still be Moreno, and I said it would be Figgy.
Yeah, you got that.
The
one.
decision was bullshit, so I
Thank
still
you.
think I'm right.
We'll see soon enough, though, if Moreno
Goddamn
gets
right.
back.
Okay,
Justice for Moreno.
Bantamweight. At the time of that episode, Aljo had defeated or had gotten the title by DQ when Piotr Jan illegally kneed him when he was down. Mark and myself both said that Jan would get it back, and Omar said it would be Jose Aldo by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Looks like we were all wrong.
If it wasn't for TJ Dillashaw,
It wasn't for fucking TJ. Yeah, man.
Jose would have taken it from Aljo. I stand by it.
Yep.
Okay, featherweight.
We all got
Featherweight.
that one wrong, man. Props to Aljo. Shut us all up.
I feel like I
Featherweight-
said Aljo would win that fight. I wonder if Aldo was the same thought process I had for Home. Well, Aljo wins the rematch, and then Aldo gets a shot at Aljo, and then Aldo wins against Aljo.
I didn't watch what you said there, so I can't help you.
Okay.
Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe it was Jan that won, and then Aldo fights Jan. No, it couldn't be that one. It had to be the other way around.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, men's featherweight. We were all wrong at the beginning of the year. It was Volk. Mark and myself both said that Max would get it back from Volk and finally get over Volk. And Omar said it would be Giga by the end of the year. And the
Another
greatness
bold
of
pick.
Volkanovski made us all look bad.
How dumb
Yeah.
is that one?
Yeah.
Looking back, like I read
That's
it, and
okay.
I'm like, wait, you didn't pick Volk? Like, it's like
Not even one of
those-
us. Not one of us picked Volk.
Yeah.
Like, it almost feels fucking rude that we didn't pick Volk.
Yeah,
It does. It
Seems
does.
crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Okay. Lightweight. Now, who was the champion at the time that it was recorded? I forget who.
That's great.
Charles.
It was already
Was it
Charles? Yes, it was. It was.
Yeah, Charles. Yeah.
Because Charles defeated Dustin before the new year.
Yeah. Right.
And let's see. Let me get back here. Both myself and Omar said it would be Gaethje by the end of the year, and Mark said it would be Charles still.
Yeah. I was closer to being right, but not close enough.
Don't
Sorry,
say that.
Dagestan.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, don't say that. The Mahachevs are gonna come for you, bro. Don't say that.
Oh, I was just saying. Sorry, Dagestan. Sorry. Okay, welterweight. Here we go. It was Usman, and we all were unanimous in saying that it would still be Usman, and we were about a minute away from being right.
Yep.
Yeah.
We were.
Okay, middleweight. Obviously, it was Adesanya. Both Mark and Omar said that by the end of the year, it would still be Adesanya, and I kind of threw out Sean Strickland, and that felt stupid now.
Yeah, and it arguably could have still been Adesanya.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, just like the Usman one, I think we were kind of like a minute and a half away from it being Adesanya again. I thought it was 4 rounds to 1 up until that. Well,
Me
I
too.
thought Adesanya had 4 rounds, really.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I think I had him
but
4-1. Yeah. Okay. Light heavyweight. We were all unanimous in thinking that by the end of the year, it would be Yuri Prohaska.
And it was.
And it fucking should have been. I mean,
That-
yeah.
We got that right.
Yes.
He blew out his
Yes.
knee.
He's not even a new champ yet. Where I give us the points on that.
Yes.
Had Yuri been a dick and just kept the belt, we would have been right.
Right.
Correct. Okay. And finally, heavyweight. Who was the champ at the beginning of the year? Was it still Ngannou?
Ngannou, yeah.
Okay. Mark and Omar both said Ngannou, and I said that it would be gone by the end of this year. And it is
Yeah.
Ngannou did what Yuri didn't do, and he held on to the belt.
Right.
He held
I
on.
wonder what happened with the contract thing. Wasn't the whole thing that the contract was supposed to expire at the end of the last year or some bullshit, and something was supposed to happen with the money?
That's
and
true. I don't know either.
I wonder what happens now, because now we are in 2023 officially, and we still haven't heard anything about Ngannou. I guess other than the John Jones stuff.
There are 12 weight classes, and we got 4, 4, and 3. Correct. Gonna have to do better in 2023.
Probably.
Okay.
Won't.
Here we go now. Let us move into our 2022 and new MMA Show awards.
You gonna put on a bow tie for this?
I should have. Yeah, you're right. I should have put on my tux. Let's start now with the MMA Pundit of the Year. Mark, would you like to go first?
I will go first. This is the layup question every single year. I mean,
Every year.
who else could
Not
it
even
be?
close.
It's the easiest answer, and he certainly sealed it recently with his evisceration of Dylan Dennis. The answer is Ariel Helwani.
Omar?
I would have to agree. He even took the time to eviscerate Dana White just a little bit as a result of Dana White slapping his wife.
Yes. Did he? I missed
So, yeah, he just posted something about
brutal. Oh, it was brutal.
it. He's like, now you guys see why I get so annoyed that a man like that has the audacity to call me a scumbag. And I was like, that's fair. That is fair. Among other things. I mean, this was like a 35-minute fucking, you know how Ariel does. Ariel takes his time taking your insides out. The motherfucker's like a vulture. He just sits there and picks at you.
He does.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of Helwani, man. The last couple of years that Helwani has been a thing has been fantastic. He has been... I like Ariel when he curses. The Ariel that didn't curse, that went out of his way to silence and censor himself is not it. I enjoy this man that just looks Dylan Dennis in the eye and goes, fuck you. Fuck you, you liar. I love it. I love it. Keep it up, and Ariel Helwani will be Pundit of the Year until the man is in the ground. Love it.
I guess so. For me, it's Ariel again as well. And I completely agree with you, Omar. And I was going to express a very similar sentiment that I'd like that Ariel is opening up more. I will say this, though, just as a caveat. I want there to be somebody else. Not that I don't like Ariel. I love Ariel. I want there to be others. I want more. And I feel like for me, Luke Thomas is almost always a close second because I consume a lot of his content and a lot of his media as well. Yeah, that's it.
The digestion.
I love Dan Hardy's.
Oh, dude, yes. I just towards the end of the year, Mark, you showed me Dan Hardy's podcast and his YouTube show. Love it.
Yeah, I could watch him talk about
Dan Hardy's dope
for like the entire day.
Yes,
I can watch Dan Hardy breakdowns the same way I can watch a Robin Black breakdown. Robin Black is fantastic when it comes to breaking down fights and moments and stuff like that. I love that dude. He's also got a personality of his own that's kind of fun. But Luke Thomas, for me, man, is very difficult to digest.
He can be.
If we're talking about long form and listening to whole shows and shit, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. Like I can listen to a clip or a take from him, but I can't do long form with him.
Well, he's different from Ariel. Like Ariel is never going to give you his for sure. Analysis, but Luke seems to have quite a bit of fighting knowledge and training knowledge.
He trains, yeah.
And he was a Marine, I think.
Is he really? I didn't know that. It's amazing how Ariel is such a large figure in the MMA world, while rarely breaking down MMA. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
He started as a journalist.
He's got a hell of a niche that he created for himself.
Yeah, and that's why I think that he's so successful is because he's doing something that people don't. That not only people aren't doing, but they're not good at doing. As far as I'm concerned, interviewing people is a very, very difficult thing. You can see it anytime you watch a interview with like fucking actors that are promoting a movie. Those interviews are awful, and I can only imagine how boring and like how many people want to put needles in their eyes having to go through those interviews with a lot of these chooch-ass reporters that are just doing it, because they have to because of their job or whatever. But Ariel takes a real pride in what he does, and a lot of times you can see he crosses some lines sometimes. Like he's not always, 100% with how he approaches certain things. Sometimes he gets a little cringe with it and a little like back the fuck up. But he's always been the one thing, like I said, and I said this with the Dylan Dennis thing, and I even said this when the Dana White, Patty Pimblett nonsense went down. Ariel, I don't think has ever lied publicly. I've never considered him to be a liar. I've never considered things that he said to be untrue or fabricated or embellished. He seems to always be pretty fucking accurate with the things that he says, which is a lot more consistent than you can say, I think, for any pundit in MMA.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Great.
I will say this one last thing. Ariel is also the only guy who puts out YouTube content and all kinds of content. He has the most dead space in his shows. He can just stop talking for like 45 seconds. And you're like, is this still playing? And it is. He just like doesn't have to, he doesn't feel the need to like push his show forward like everybody else does, like we do.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. Okay, next category. Referee of the year. Omar, who you got?
In order for me to pick this, my thought process was what referees have pissed me off the least this year. And I went with my boy, Jason Herzog. That will be my pick.
Nice. Mark?
Considered Herzog. I think he is my silver medalist. I went with Mark Smith. You never hear people talk about him. I think that's a great sign. He's authoritative. He doesn't miss anything. He's a great ref. I think that I thought about him the least of any ref all year, which in my book makes you the best ref.
Yes. A good referee is like a lawn. You only notice it when something's wrong. You get it?
Yes.
Okay. My pick was also Mark Smith. I've grown to really, really like his refereeing. Totally echo your sentiment, Mark. He's authoritative. I love how he's super clear in the octagon. When something happens, if there's an incidental low blow or an eye poke, he's so clear. He like yells, "Stop!" Like so clear. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. So yeah, he's the fucking man. And I feel like I can't recall an early stoppage or a bad late stoppage from him. He's just good all around, man. He's great.
I think I find Mark Smith just a smidge theatrical for me. He's just a little on the extra side with the way he does the refereeing. I prefer Jason Herzog's more human approach to refereeing. Mark Smith is it's just a little too much for me. He's a good referee.
Totally.
I have grown to like him more than I liked him last year. I will say that.
Sure.
But just a bit too theatrical for me.
Yeah, man. I still love Herzog, man. He's the best.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Okay, next category. Coach of the Year. I will go first this time. For my Coach of the Year, I had Eugene Berman, coach over at City Kickboxing. Let's see, just rattling off some of his fighters' results this year. Carlos Ulberg went 3-0 with 2 finishes. Tyson Pedro 2-0, 2 finishes. Dan Hooker coming off a nice bounce back win. TKO against Claudio Puelles. Kai Kara France, UD over Ascar. Got to a title fight against Moreno. Lost that one. Volk went 2-0, dominated. Izzy went 2-1. Who you guys got? Mark?
So I went with a duo because I didn't know which one is like, they are a duo. And it's Habib Nurmagomedov and Javier Mendez. They went 19-2 on the year. Islam became the lightweight champ of the UFC. Usman became the lightweight champ in Bellator. Umar has risen through the ranks. They had Bilal turn in one of his best performances ever once he linked up with them. They have Godzi as a rising star in Bellator who just showed out on the New Year's Eve card. There's a lot of guys there, and 19-2 is a hell of a record. I do have one honorable mention, but I will let Omar give
Wait,
his.
so it's Khabib and who?
Javier Mendez.
Javier Mendez, okay.
Yeah, those are mine. That was exactly what I had too. Yeah. Khabib now is, and he's not only taken the role of Abdul Manap, but he's also taken the figure of Abdul Manap, and he has gone full Abdul Manap in 2022. And he's done it. he's done it. I mean, the strides that him and his team have made since he's become coach, I think it's hard to argue. It's hard to ignore. So yeah, Khabib. I had Khabib by himself because I thought Khabib was personally, I thought Khabib was the biggest difference in that camp. But we can throw Javier Mendez in there as well. I'm fine with that.
I just felt weird saying Khabib without saying Mendez, considering like Mendez was Khabib's head coach, and anything Khabib is doing is kind of like with him. So like I felt weird not.
But to me, it's kind of like the lineage, though. Like I feel like by saying Khabib, you kind of automatically give the credit to Abdul, to Mendez, and to like the guys that gave it to Khabib.
Fair.
But because I think Khabib at this point is the day-to-day guy. I think he's the one who's now doing a lot of the abusive trainings that go on in AKA.
Yeah. My honorable mention that I wanted to throw out, just because I feel like he doesn't get a lot of love, is Fernelli Feliz Sr. I don't know how much credit to give him, considering he's mainly a boxing coach. But despite that, he apparently does kind of serve as the head coach as well for both Glover and Alex Pereira. And he had both of them win titles in the same year. So that's a pretty good resume, and I feel like it's a guy who no one really brings up. So wanted to give him a little shout-out.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't even know who that was when you said it, so there you go.
All right, this one was kind of difficult for me to pick. I'm curious to hear your guys' picks. Breakout fighter of the year. Omar, why don't you go first?
Names on the fucking list. Yeah. I won't say them all.
Yeah, this was hard for me to pick. When I kind of got down to it, I chose Alex Pereira.
Okay.
And the reason why I
That's
did is because Alex Pereira is on a very short list of fighters who has won a UFC title within a year of joining the UFC. I think he came in at the end of 2021, like November or something like that, and by the middle of 2022 was the champion of the middleweight division. 4 fights total, if I'm not mistaken, which is another thing that is only a handful of people have been able to do. Anderson Silva, off the top of my head, I think had 1 fight in the UFC before he got a title shot. It's not a common thing to have happen. So I thought this year Pereira was the one who climbed the rankings, I think the fastest, the highest, and ended up making a big splash at the end, winning the title.
Mark?
So I got a bunch of honorables I want to just mention. Should I do that after or now?
Do that first. Do them first. No, do them first.
Oh, okay, do it. Fine, do it first.
And then save the grand finale.
All right. I won't say all these. I have too many names on this fucking list. But I wanted to mention Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think he has come through as a force and a name to watch at welterweight. Wanted to mention both Brendan Loughnane and Olivier Aubin-Mercier for their runs in PFL. I thought those were really significant for their careers. Christian Lee for coming back and retaking his lightweight belt and then also taking the welterweight belt in ONE FC. Marlon Vera for the career jump he has taken. He kind of already was taking it in 2021, but put even more of a stamp on it in 2022. Khamzat Chimaev, who we have mentioned here, again, similar. He kind of did it in 2021, did it even more in 2022. And then I get to like my top few here. Gianni Eblin, who kind of came out of absolutely nowhere to beat the brakes off Gegard Mousasi and become the middleweight champ. Larissa Pacheco, who was someone that no one gave a chance to against Kayla and got one of the biggest wins of in women's MMA this year. Probably the biggest win in women's MMA this year.
I think so.
And then my runner-up, I will say Sergey Pavlovich, a guy who started his UFC run. He missed all of 2021, returned in 2022, and all he did was knock out Shamil Abdurrahimov, Derek Lewis, and Tai Tuivasa consecutively. My breakout fighter of the year, Alex Pereira. It's very hard to give it to someone else. When you make a UFC debut at the very end of 2021 and you're the champion by the end of 2022, it's very hard to not give you the breakout fighter of the year. So I know I said a lot of names there. Just had some people I wanted to be able to shout out, but my breakout fighter of the year is the middleweight champion, Alex Pereira.
okay, I feel stupid because quite honest to God, I didn't even think about Pereira for this category because all of the lists that I've seen and consulted on the internet have him either winning Fighter of the Year or on the list for Fighter of the Year.
I mean, that's also fair.
So I didn't even think of him. So I went back and forth. My honorable mention is Erin Blanchfield. I feel like I remember that Mark kind of mentioned her in this category last year.
Yep.
But I felt like this year she took an even bigger step up in notoriety. 2 fights, both finishes over J.J. Aldrich and completely killing the hype train of Molly McCann and thereby stealing her hype for herself. But for a very similar reason, I ultimately went with Chito Vera. For a similar reason of kind of another big step up in notoriety and climbing up the rankings more and more. I mean, Cheeto's been around for a minute. But especially with that finish over Dominic Cruz, such a legend to do that to a guy of that stature, I felt it really has put Cheeto on the map in a big way. But now I feel like an idiot because clearly it should be Pereira. Clearly, but I'll stay with my pick, and I'll say I'll stick with Cheeto.
I like it.
Yeah, man. Okay. Okay, another interesting category: underappreciated fighter of the year, or most underappreciated fighter of the year. I had a hard time with this one, so I'll go first this time, and I'll say, due to his recent performance over Kevin Holland, I said Stephen Wonderboy Thompson because he's a guy who's a veteran who's been around for a while, and I think fans of the welterweight division have maybe grown complacent to the wonders that is Wonderboy, and he has reminded us of why he is one of the most exciting 170-pounders in the world. Omar?
So my pick was actually Jack Della Maddalena. I don't think enough people are giving this kid credit for the performances that he's putting on. He is absolutely annihilating people left and right. And the man is not getting nearly enough coverage or love for the performances that he's been putting on. I think it sucks. I think we see people with performances that are not even close to as good getting more love. And I hope that 2023 is the year for Jack Della Maddalena, because if the man keeps putting on performances for me to watch of that caliber up in the rankings, we'll be all so lucky. The man's a beast, and I hope 2023 is his year.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, talk about another guy that just got rocketed up the ranks from Danny Roberts to Randy Brown.
Facts.
All right, I got a few honorables. Really, I can lump most of these into the same thought process. I'll give you 5 guys that went 3-0 this year. 5 guys that went 3-0 this year that I want to make sure get some acknowledgement. Drew Dober just capped it off with a huge KO of Bobby Green. Jonathan Pierce, who just kind of broke through by taking out Darren Elkins. Damon Jackson, who just finished Pat Sabatini. Jonathan Martinez, who just brutalized Cub Swanson. And Saeed Nurmagomedov, who just choked out Kakramanov. So all 5 of those guys, went 3-0 this year and had massive years and should be appreciated for the years that they had. A lot of guys fought once in a whole calendar year, so going 3-0 is relevant. My runner-up, I will say Liz Carmouche. I've kind of made this point on here. I just feel like turning back Juliana Velasquez twice, reigning as the Bellator champion at her age, is something that should be getting more credit than it seems to be getting in general mainstream MMA. My winner, just because, again, in terms of mainstream MMA, is Larissa Pacheco.
Nice.
She killed 3 girls in a matter of minutes and capped it off by beating the previously unbeatable Kayla Harrison. And I think most casual fans still have no idea who she is. And if you told me today she was fighting Amanda Nunes, I would be fucking pumped to watch that fight. So for that to be the case and most people not to even know who she is despite the year she just had, I think she does fit the bill, so I will go with Larissa Pacheco.
Nice.
That's a good one. I will add, Jack Della Maddalena did go 3-0 this year as well.
Yes, I wasn't saying everybody who did. Yeah.
No. I just wanted to add that because you did put that out there, so I just wanted to, in case people were wondering. Jonathan Martinez is a fantastic call out for underappreciation, though. That fight with Cub Swanson was something to remember. That was one of the more beautiful performances I think we saw in 2022. Yeah, I love the Larissa Pacheco pick as well. You're absolutely right about all that.
Thank you.
Okay. Comeback fighter of the year. So this is not meaning within a single fight. That's the next category. This means a fighter who has come back. Mark, take it first.
All right. Only got a few here. I'll mention Jamal Hill. 2021, he kind of had his momentum stopped in the loss to Paul Craig. He came back, had a big year in 2022, and now finds himself in a title fight. So that was a big one. I mentioned this one earlier, Christian Lee. He lost his belt in 2021, came back and reclaimed it, and then became double champ in 2022. So definitely a big bounce-back year for him. My runner-up, I will say Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson, who had been beaten by Adriano Moraes, was able to rebound, take his title back by finishing Moraes this year and kind of remind everyone that he might still be the best flyweight on planet Earth for all we know. But my comeback fighter of the year will be Patricio Pitbull.
Wow, nice.
He was finished, obviously, by A.J. McKee late in 2021. It kind of felt like, I think, to all of us, that his reign was over, that McKee was the new guy, that maybe we were going to start to see Pitbull, fading a little bit. And instead, whatever you want to say about the decision, he came back, took his belt right back from A.J. McKee in the rematch, defended against Adam Boric, who people thought was going to be an interesting test, and he absolutely shut down Adam Boric. And then just went ahead and won another fight on New Year's Eve on a huge rising card. So a big comeback year for Patricio Pitbull, for a guy who some people thought his time was maybe done at the end of 2021 to come back and be still reigning as he is.
Nice. Omar.
So my comeback fighter of the year is Zhang Wei Li. Zhang Wei Li lost twice in 2021. Obviously lost her belt to Rose Namajunas early in 2021, and then lost the rematch in a hard-fought split decision to Rose again November of 2021. Regardless of how you thought that fight went, she ain't win that goddamn belt, and she didn't win all of 2021. Those were two big losses. The first time she lost two fights back-to-back in her career. And, we know that she made a lot of changes to her camp, changes to her hair, changes to the Zhang Wei Li that we knew prior to the first Rose Namajunas fight. Made, I think, significant changes in her life in general. I believe she also moved to the U.S. from China, made a lot of different changes. Comes back in June of 2022 and puts the absolute ass whooping on Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Granted, Joanna had one foot out the door, and there are a lot of things we can say about Joanna's performance and where her head was at there. But the fact is Joanna, I think, is still, to a certain extent, Joanna. And Zhang Wei Li kind of showed that her level is still up there, and laid out Joanna pretty badly. Then, November of 2022, she fights Carla Esparza. Esparza, the first round, I've argued, was relatively competitive, all things considered. But once we got into that second round, it was all Zhang Wei Li. She put a real disparity in the skill level, I thought, between the two of them. Locked in a modified rear naked choke. And for me, becomes the comeback fighter of the year.
It's a great pick. Didn't even think of her.
I have sort of a unconventional pick, a guy who hasn't bounced back from a loss, although I consider it a loss, kind of. I went with Aljamain Sterling, a guy who was really getting worked in his first fight against Petr Yan, ends up winning by disqualification from an illegal knee, took a ton of shit for seeming like he was milking the illegal knee and kind of acting, and people were all, the entire time for like months and months. We're like, he's the best actor. Give the guy an Oscar. Also coming off of a surgery. The rematch got pushed back because of surgery and complications. So a guy who was battling a ton of demons, he went in. The second fight was still a split decision, so it was still a fairly close fight, although most people had Sterling winning. I had him winning that fight by unanimous decision.
Yeah.
And then he came back and he looked great against TJ, although that fight is kind of weird too, because TJ's arm was like detached. So I went with Aljo.
That's a great pick also. I didn't think of either one of those, and I like them both.
Remember that image of Sterling when he made weight for the rematch, and he like screamed and like started kind of getting emotional, and he was like, it's been a long road to get to this point."
Yep.
I remember that. That was a very memorable moment. Okay. Now we're gonna do comeback of the year. I'm gonna go first this time because I think this one is fucking easy.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get out of the way. Easily, Edwards defeating Usman, UFC 278. Oh my God, unbelievable moment, and was losing almost the entire fight. Was getting worked. Usman looks like Usman, just kind of durable, unbreakable, until Edwards just found that chink in the armor, man, and he put him out cold. Comeback of the year. What do you guys have?
Yeah, I guess I'll take it. Shout out to Matt Schnell over Sumaderji because it was fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, bud. You're in a tough category, my friend, because the answer is obviously Leon Edwards over Kamaru Usman. I mean, it was literally a Rocky movie that played out on our screens in a UFC fight, from the fucking words in the corner to the way the fight was going to the way he timed the head kick, the celebration, all of it. It is the definition of a comeback of the year.
Yes. Omar?
I would agree, but I don't.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to go with Alex Pereira's KO over Israel Adesanya. And here's why.
Wow.
And here's why. I personally think Israel Adesanya was winning that fight. The first round, if you remember properly, Pereira was seconds away from getting laid the fuck out. He got rocked. He was turned the complete other way from where Israel was standing, and he was in a bad way. Luckily for him, there was like 5 seconds left, 10 seconds left, whatever the hell it was, that didn't allow enough time for real capitalization on that rock to be taken. I think he lost the next couple rounds, the next few rounds, and then by the time we got to the fifth round, you know, he was always a threat, but I still think that Izzy was winning those rounds. And when we got to the fifth round, I don't think he had any way of winning that fight other than knocking out Israel Adesanya, and he did it, man, and he did it, and he did it against a guy who had not lost at middleweight. He did it against a guy who, you know, has pretty much unanimously by the MMA community been considered at this point the best middleweight fighter we've seen, if not ever, since Anderson Silva. And Alex Pereira went in there like if he was Chris Weidman and put the beat on him at the very end. And I think it was a big comeback for him, a big moment for him and his team. And it leads, I think, for an even greater storyline for a second rematch, third fight.
Wow. All right. Very
Third
cool.
Rematch.
Now-
Fourth fight.
Fourth fight. They fought twice in kickboxing.
They had two fights in kickboxing, so that's one rematch.
Yeah.
And then a second rematch. So third rematch.
Fourth
Third rematch, fourth fight. I got you. Yes. Yes.
A different kind of MMA math. All right, boys, here
I
we
will
go.
also say, as far as the Rocky comparison with the corners, the Alex Pereira corner did the same thing.
Yeah.
The biggest difference is it just sounded cooler coming from the Usman corner.
Yeah,
You know
man.
what I mean?
The Edwards corner.
Come on, son. Come on, son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta go for it, Rocky. Come on, son.
And his name is Rocky, which helps.
Yeah.
It's just tastefully just a bit better. You know what I mean? Just tastes a little bit better, but the content was the same. You know?
Yes. Fair.
I mean, also just to compare them, since we're comparing them, Pereira kind of took the 4th round off, and I was like, this dude's going to get finished in this round because he's like not fighting. He looked so gassed in round 4.
Yeah.
And I was like, is he gassed and he's like going to die? Or is he kind of trying to save it for the 5th? It turns out that the latter was kind of the right thing. And like, he came out in the 5th fucking blazing. Whereas Edwards was just getting worked the whole fight. Did Edwards win like round 1?
Maybe one, yeah.
One.
But not like dominantly.
No, he got a takedown and kind of.
He got the take. That's right. Okay. Anyway. Okay, let's go on. Submission of the year. Omar, take it first this time.
I'm gonna apologize to the homeboy here because you already know what's coming, Mark. You already know what's coming.
What's coming?
Is Islam Makhachev's arm triangle over the boy Charles Oliveira? I mean, come on, guys. You're gonna tell me that this man chokes out Super Saiyan Charles Oliveira and we're not gonna give him submission of the year? Come on, dog. You got to.
Okay.
That's a good point. It's funny. For my KO, I kind of thought about it in terms of like the magnitude of the moment. But for some reason, I focused like purely on technique, and I didn't really factor in magnitude of the moment. Which, if you do, that's a great pick. I narrowed it to 2. One was more relevant, so I felt I had to include it, but it is probably my second place, which is Jessica Andrade and her standing arm triangle choke of Amanda Lemos, where she just lets go and drops her to the ground.
This is your second place?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
But my sub of the year goes to, and I don't even remember how to say this man's last name because I haven't seen him fight since this, and that was the first time I ever watched him fight. I don't even think I watched it live. I think I went back and watched it. Luca Poklet or Poklet, I believe it's Luca Poklet in Bellator over Dante Sciro. The man more or less invented a choke. Even BJJ studs were like, I don't know what that just was. So if you have not seen this, go watch it. Luca Poklet over Dante Sciro. They now call it the Luganator choke, and you absolutely need to go watch it if you have not seen it. It was an unbelievable finish.
Was that kind of like inverted triangle?
It was, yes, an inverted arm triangle.
Oh, wow.
It was, they were kind of in a dual headlock position with their heads under each other's arms. You got to watch it. I can't even, It doesn't make sense is really the best way to describe it.
It almost looks like a modified guillotine, honestly. It's a one-armed modified guillotine. It is very fucked up looking.
The best is the most oftenly attempted way I heard it described was a modified arm triangle, which I can't even really see how they're saying it's that. But I give up on trying to define what that submission is. And he puts him out cold. This is not a tap, people. He chokes a man out.
Oh, yeah,
and the commentary didn't even know a choke was happening. So
eyes open. Boy is looking up at heaven right now. Boy.
Big John is literally going like, what an interesting position these two guys are stuck in. And wait, oh my God, he's out cold. Like it was wild. So yeah, go watch it if you have not.
Okay. Mine. Okay, my honorable mention was Jessica Andrade standing arm triangle against Lemos. And my submission of the year, it was more so of like the magnitude of the moment and the image that we got. So mine was Matt Schnell choking out Sumaderji.
Fuck. I should have that on my list.
UFC on ABC. It's on ABC, dude. And the image of this was also I won't spoil it for later. The image of Matt Schnell doing the money signs, laying there with Sumaderji unconscious, like
covered in blood.
Covered in blood.
combined with the comeback that Matt Schnell had, it was just incredible. It was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, this might be interesting. KO of the year. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first with this one.
Okay.
This one, for me, was Leon Rocky Edwards versus Usman. That was, if you take away the moment, if you take away all of it, that head kick is fucking disgusting. It was nasty. I mean, there's not a ton of head kicks you see that land as clean and as perfect as that one did, and it needs to be a poster somewhere. It needs to be all the things. That should be a fucking refrigerator magnet, frankly. Like, it needs to be all the things. So, knockout of the year.
Okay, Mark?
All right, I'll give you a few quick that I'll try to rattle off that are honorable mentions. I wanted to make sure we shouted out Alex Caceres after the props we just gave him last week. I felt like he deserved a shout out on this list. I loved that same side combo that he finished with a head kick, knocking out Juliana Rosa. Molly McCann and her spinning elbow of Luana Carolina was absolutely filthy. Michael Chandler front kicking Tony Ferguson's face into next week. The main three I wanna highlight. Gotta shout out Irene Aldana with a heel kick from the ground to the body of a standing Macy Chasson. Never seen it before in my life. Absolutely deserves a shout out on this award show. That was an unbelievable finish. I had a hard time deciding on my KO of the year because I was debating moment versus technique.
Right.
I went with the moment one as my KO of the year. The technique one that I have loved from the second I ever saw it is Demetrius Johnson's running knee KO of Adriano Moraes. Just the amount of steps that he had to take with a falling, stumbling Moraes, where nothing is getting thrown and he's just following him and timing it and running as Moraes is falling, and perfectly launches into the most accurate knee you've ever seen. That was my KO of the year technique-wise. Easy.
You can even give credit to the setup of it as well, because the way that sequence started, he ducks under a punch, comes back with a counter cross, and then that's what sends Adriano stumbling back to begin with.
Yep.
The whole sequence is fucking crazy.
Yeah, 100%. And just to even throw the knee in that spot, chasing a stumbling guy, and to be like, what I'm going to do here is a flying knee, like it.
To have seen what you were going to do in that moment, and like for none of it to be a surprise is fucking, it's only DJ stuff.
Agree. But I factored in the moment, so I have the same pick as Omar for my official pick, which is the Leon Edwards KO of Kamaru Usman. It's just, as soon as you hear KO of the year, the one that flashes into your brain that you will never forget is when Leon Edwards took the title off Kamaru Usman.
I'll tell you right now, if Jan had finished this boy with those leg kicks, with those shin kicks, that might have been in my honorable mentions, because
for sure.
When the hell do you ever see that?
Yeah.
When?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay, my honorable mentions. Cheeto knocking out Cruz. Devastating.
Yep.
Also,
Shattered
one of my
his whole
favorites.
face.
Tai Tuivasa knocks out Derek Lewis with that short elbow, pressing him against the cage. Derek Lewis dips his head down and just vanishes into oblivion. Sticking right here for heavyweight. Interesting note, thinking of myself and as all of us, none of Sergey Pavlovich's knockouts are even on my radar, because he just like clobbers guys.
Yes,
like
he just drugs you.
You're right. Also honorable mention, Ilia Topuria just putting Jai Herbert into another orbit.
Yes.
And my last honorable mention is Chandler's front kick against Tony was devastating. But we are unanimous. It just has to be Leon Rocky Edwards winning the welterweight belt against Usman with that fifth round Hail Mary head kick. Just Never going to forget it, right? It's like what that's the one that you're always going to remember from this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
All
Quick
right.
side note: somebody tried to fight Ila Taporti at a bar. Needless to say, it didn't go that man's way. So there's that.
Not the smartest decision that person ever made.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Okay, fight of the year, boys. I will go first this time. I'm interested to see if we are unanimous or if we're all over the place. I think we might be unanimous here. For me, the fight of the year, it had to be Glover versus Yuri. UFC 275 for the light heavyweight strap. Judging from the nodding that's going on by my two co-hosts. I mean, this fight had it all, man. It just had it all. It had it. It was action nonstop. We got the best of Yuri. We got the best of Glover. We got submission attempts. We had great striking, knockdowns, and we got a finish. And Yuri took his throne, man, as most of us thought he would. All right, Mark, take it.
Yeah, I had this down to 2. I don't even have more honorable mentions than that. My runner-up that I really did debate was Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns.
Oh, yes.
That thing was just a war. I'll never forget that fight. Etched in my brain. I loved the will that both guys showed in that fight. I may have even been more into that fight in the moments than I was into my winning fight. But my fight of the year will also be Glover Teixeira and Yuri Prochazka. It was sloppy in a lot of ways. Oddly and confusingly sloppy at times. But it was never not a fight, and an incredible fight, and a back-and-forth fight, and 1,000 momentum swings. And that's what a fight of the year is. So It's got to be them.
Yep. All right, Omar.
Yeah, when I was picking this fight, I had to kind of think about what fight of the year really meant for me, and you know, if I was going to be picking essentially a performance within a fight of the year, or whether I was going to be picking kind of a competitive back and forth, you know, momentum shifting fight. When I was in that process, I landed on Glover versus Yuri versus Glover as my number one pick because of all the momentum shifts. But also because of the competitive nature of it as well, right? Like, there was at no point in that fight where you knew what was going to happen, where you knew, you know, that Glover was going to end up winning in this round or winning that, or like that shit was all over the place. They were going back. The moment where you thought Glover's getting him, and then Yuri fucked him up. Like it was a lot of back and forth right up until the very end of that fight. Definitely an exciting fight to watch. I had, and I continue to have, the Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie fight in my head. It is not a competitive fight, but God damn it, was it one of the most impressive and, I mean, that has to be one of the greatest performances, one-sided performances ever. I mean, it will never leave my head, and so it was a hard. I had to sort of like think about the fact that that's not the fight of the year, but it kept coming up every time I kept thinking about it. So I'm gonna shout that out as an honorable mention because of that. But I'm gonna go Yuri versus Glover.
Nice. Okay. Fighter of the year. Omar, let's stick with you right here and just spit it out. Give it to us.
My fighter of the year is Alexander Volkanovski. Alexander Volkanovski is like one god fruit away from becoming a living legend, a living entity. Like, the man is absolutely crazy. I've never seen. It's a rare day for us to see at this point somebody that dominant at this level of MMA. We used to see, I feel like, this kind of dominance a lot when styles were still very stringent, right? When you would see real different stylistic matchups between guys who were big into the Muay Thai or big into kickboxing, like whatever it was. But now with guys being so much more well-rounded, you rarely see these significant types of one-sided ass beatings. And I feel like Volkanovski delivers on more than one. I just think the Korean Zombie one was just on a different level, but it's not the only one that he's had. I mean, he's made Max look human, normal, like he's not the Max Holloway that he is in every other fight that he's in. I just think Volkanovski at this point in the entire UFC roster is the one who is on a completely different level. So, Alexander Volkanovski.
Mark?
This one was a bit hard. Give you a few honorables. I thought Wei Lee deserved a shout out for kind of the points that Omar made earlier. KO's Joanna, subs Carla to become the champion. Big year for her. Leon Edwards obviously had a huge fight, huge finish, huge moment. We've been talking about him throughout these awards, but it was only one fight, so I felt like it could not be him with only one fight in the calendar year. Sergey Pavlovich, I mentioned him earlier, 3 KOs in the heavyweight division. That's a huge year. My top 3, Volk, for all the reasons that Omar just said. The dude is incredible. He's such a level above. Alex Pereira, for the reasons we have said throughout this award show as well. Just the ascension, knocking out Sean Strickland, knocking out Izzy. I didn't go with either Volk or Pereira for my fighter of the year. Pereira because he was kind of losing the fight. I didn't love the finish, so it wasn't so definitive for me. Volk I really debated. In the end, I am going to make our viewers who like to comment happy.
Oh,
My fighter
there
of
it
the year
is.
is Islam Makhachev.
Yeah, put that in
Dominance.
the tag, baby.
That this man showed, and you know how highly I rate Charles Oliveira, to walk through Bobby Green and then do what he did against Charles Oliveira, to beat him on the feet the way that he did, to choke out Charles Oliveira in round 2, take the title. I think if I had to pick a fighter whose year this most was, I think I'd have to say Islam Makhachev.
Okay. My honorable mentions for Fighter of the Year. Were Zhang, 2-0, dominant both times. But what held her back, I think, and I'd say this with all due respect to both ladies, both former champs, was strength of competition. Don't crucify me. My love for Joanna is well documented on the show. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to do the voice. I also had Alex Pereira, honorable mention. I totally agree with Mark. I was going to say the exact same sentiment, that because he was pretty much losing that fight all the way up until that last moment, that last barrage, that held him back for me. And Islam was like runner-up, like 1A for me, for his dominance. To do what he did against Charles was just incredible. But it also, again, lost a few points for me for his only other fight in the year was Bobby Green. So again, strength of competition. So I went with Alexander the Great Volkanovski for looking as amazing as he's looked against the competition that he has faced. The man is just on another level. And I happily crown him Fighter of the Year this time around.
How about the fact that the 2 men who we have chosen as the fighters of the year are about to fight?
Yeah. Wow, you're right.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
And I can't wait. We can finally settle that and see really where we're at.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Because these are 2 guys that have barely lost rounds. You know what I mean? I think the Brian Ortega fight might have been the last time that Volkanovski was in real shit in a fight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish they could make Volk a little bigger or shrink Islam a little bit between now and this fight starting. But hey, we'll see what happens.
Hey, man, you're not allowed to say that.
I am interested to see what Volk looks like, though, at 155, or him cutting to 155, because he might look even better, man. I mean, he's got space to gain weight there. I mean, his frame allows for it a little bit, so there's room.
it's a well-known number, right? Like, what was his like walk-around weight when he was a rugby
like
player? 247 or something like that.
Oh, was it that?
Yeah,
big?
when he was rugby, he did walk around at 200 plus pounds. I can't find exactly how much. 214
like
pounds.
205, but
214. 97 kilograms.
Okay.
Which is ridiculous.
yeah.
Last category, gentlemen. Moments of the year. I love this one. It really, because it just brings up like all such great memories throughout the year. I'll go first this time. For me, the moment of the year, the first and only one that popped into my head was Leon Edwards' coach or corner screaming at him before the 5th round. Well, come on then. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Oh, I get goosebumps, man. I get goosebumps. It was like a movie. Yes. And I can watch that shit on replay over and over again. So inspirational. He was so defeated. He was so defeated. And it just goes to show you the power of having a great fucking coach, man. How a coach can pick you up when you can't pick yourself up. You guys go.
Right,
I will.
You go.
I'll rack off of it just because I'm going to go down the same vein here. I am also in the Leon camp when it comes to this moment of the year, but mine goes a little bit later on. Once he's won the fight, once he's got the belt in his hand, once they've got a microphone in his hand, and he's just laying into the world, and he's just, look at me now. You said I couldn't do it. Look at me now. Pound for pound, headshot, dead. Let's fucking go. That's one of the greatest fucking things I've ever heard in my life. To tell the whole world you doubted me. Look at me now. Look at me now. Oh, I love it. I love it. That's my moment. That's the only moment in my head. The only one.
I'll give you some honorable mentions, but I'm ending up in the same fucking place. Yes. 3 honorables. Charles Oliveira, when he was stripped of his belt, screaming before the fight and after the fight. This is kind of not a single moment. It's more like a story moment. That the champion has a name, destroying Justin Gaethje, yelling at more that the champion has a name. That was an awesome one. We've mentioned this one, bloody Matt Schnell flashing the money signs as he completes the triangle choke submission of Sumaderji was unbelievable. Nate Diaz submitting Tony Ferguson with 2:09 on the clock just because.
Oh, Jesus.
How perfect is that one?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to the same place. Again, I kind of was thinking of it as like an overall moment. I love how you guys specified it. I was going to throw out the same exact quotes that Omar did. But the whole thing, from the way the fight was going, to the corner picking him up, to the timing of the head kick, and then, yes, to the mic in his hands, the look at me now, pound for pound headshot dead is up there as my favorite quote in the history of MMA. The whole thing was just one of the greatest stories I've ever watched in MMA in one single fight. Can't go anywhere else.
It was literally the best moment. It was like, if you didn't like Leon Edwards before then, you could not have walked away not liking that kid. There's no way.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing moment.
And we'll see how the rematch goes. But
Dude,
however,
did you see the pictures from this weekend of Usman with something on his hand?
No.
Dude,
I sent you guys a text message because I had a whole conversation on this Facebook group that I'm a part of, where it showed Usman was doing like some, it was either an interview or it was I know he was also doing some fights, like hosting fights and stuff like that. Yeah, but he had his hand wrapped up like in a almost like a cast kind of thing, and so everybody's got their
cast or something.
Yeah, everybody's got their tinfoil hat on now, and they're all, we're all like, well, doesn't look like Usman's going to make it. Look like Jorge Masvidal about to get his third fucking title shot or whatever number he's on now. So we'll see what happens, man. But Masvidal might be shipping his ass over to London to get that fight. Finally get that fight.
I get it if that's the replacement fight, and I'm obviously fucking here for it. But God, if you're like Bilal Muhammad, you got to be like, what in the fucking world is going on right now that I'm not getting this fight?
For as much as it does make sense, it equally makes no sense. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I know what you mean.
It makes no sense, but I know why they'd be doing it. But it makes no sense.
Oh yeah, the promo videos will be
Oh.
rolling.
And then have them in one of those fucking where they sit them down next to each other and you got a guy in the middle and they just let them talk shit for each other for a half hour.
Yeah.
Do one of those, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would. Certainly would.
Oh, that fight would sell so hard, and way more than a Bilal Muhammad fight. God bless him.
Oh yeah, which is why it would be the one that they go with for sure.
Sorry, Bilal.
Yeah.
I mean, Bilal, I think, is an infinitely more difficult fight by a huge margin. But as far as where the interest is, where the drama is, where your blood gets boiling because some shit's about to go down, it's the Masvidal fight.
Yeah, man. How about some trivia to end the show? Oh, that does it, folks. That concludes this year's and new MMA Show awards. Congratulations to all the winners and all the runners-up.
You guys can come to Florida individually to collect your prizes.